Dave Roberts tells the Dodgers that it is they, not Arizona, that has the bullseye on their back. The press loses its composure on a Lakers trade that never happened. And the Clippers send two unhappy players back home. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos morning report. So it is February 15th, 2024. No, I am not wearing the glasses that I normally wear. All I'm going to say is Valentine's Day was a lot more successful than previously anticipated. So hey, we're going to make do with the backups and talk some LA sports. If you like being in the know about LA, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It lets you know we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And by all means, comment. I do look forward to hearing from you. And by the way, we have, if you see the countdown board behind me, an absolute ton to get to. So before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard. Anthony Davis scored 37 points. Rui Hachimura, he scored 36 points. And the Lakers knock off Utah 138 to 122. James Harden, meanwhile, scores 26 points. And the Clippers beat Golden State 130 to 125. Now, we talked a couple of days ago about how Kawhi Leonard has an adductor strain. Ty Lue is saying it's really not something that he or the Clippers are particularly worried about. Both teams are now heading into the All-Star break. Meanwhile, today, the Kings are at New Jersey at 4, Colorado at UCLA at 6, and Utah at USC at 8 o'clock. But let's get to the news. What do you say? Now, Dave Roberts, he chatted up the team Wednesday to start off the season. It took about an hour, which would put me to sleep, frankly. The premise of the speech would have been sufficient enough for me. And then everybody huddles, claps their hands, and goes about their lives. The premise was, quote, embrace the idea that people are coming after us, unquote. The sweep by Arizona in the first round of last year's playoffs totally doesn't matter. It's the Dodgers that are the team that has the bullseye, and I don't have a problem with him saying that. I would suggest that they do more so than the Diamondbacks, frankly. Yesterday, the Scribes, meanwhile, came up with two articles that you and I had already been discussing for months. So I want to thank the Scribes for finally catching up to you and I on this channel. One, that the Dodgers have no interest in a six-man rotation. We knew. We talked about it for a couple of months. The other one is also somewhat obvious. Or I should say the reason that they're not going to a six-man is somewhat obvious. They sign a glut of starting pitchers, not because they want to go with the six-man rotation, but they are anticipating that many of these guys are going to wind up getting injured. The second article that came out yesterday was from Ken Rosenthal, the bow tie guy that you see on Fox Sports. He noted something that we've been talking about as well for quite a while, that the Dodgers are not particularly interested in Scott Boras's clients, the so-called super agent. Only two Boras clients are on LA. That would be starting pitcher James Paxton and reliever Brusdar Graterol. Now, Rosenthal said something I admit I did not know, or I don't even know necessarily if I believe. See, there are a lot of scouts in the game who really have it in for Scott Boras for a variety of reasons. It's not just, he's trying to gouge more money. There's other reasons as well. But according to Rosenthal, there is no antipathy between Dodger president Andrew Friedman and Boras. They simply run their business different. To which I would say, no kidding, right? One thing Boras really likes are long-term big money contracts. He hates going 1 year, 2 years. He wants to get just long ones until your beard just hits the floor. The Dodgers will obviously spend, we know that. But in order for them to go long-term, you have to be a generational talent. Otherwise, no, they're not going to commit to 6+ years. Recall, J.D. Martinez, good guy, damn fine hitter. The Dodgers would only sign him to a 1-year contract. And why is that? Because he's a designated hitter and he's not Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani is the generational talent. Hell, the Dodgers even went after Bryce Harper, another Boris client, but they would only offer him a 3-year deal. Harper eventually signed with Philly for a 13-year deal. So you can kind of see the difference of the way that the Dodgers look at things. And if you're wondering why the Dodgers look at it that way, it's because they have a minor league system that is so deep that if you sign somebody to 7, 8, 9 years, they're going to have a minor leaguer or two that's ready to try to get to the majors in that time. So why gamble? Why? The only Boris client who left the Dodgers that the Dodgers probably wish that they still had would be Corey Seager. And according to Dodgers radio guy, David Vassay, he believes the Dodgers a few years ago offered Seager an 8-year contract. 8 years. Boris still said no. And that's why Seager is over in Texas. So I would add, if the Dodgers are not going with a 6-man rotation, that would make the competition for the number 5 starter to be kind of important, wouldn't you say? Robert said that there is going to be a battle between 3 guys, Emmett Sheehan, Gavin Stone, and Ryan Yarbrough, while Walker Buehler will likely open the season on the injured list. Now, ain't that a kick in the head, right? Because the implication is that maybe Buehler is the 5th starter. 2 years ago, we were talking about Walker Buehler as if he was the next Clayton Kershaw. Now he's the 5th starter. MLB.com is telling us Gavin Lux is ready to play shortstop, which is obviously a headline that they recycled from last preseason, if you recall, before his knee exploded like Vin Diesel ran over his legs or something. Roberts has noticed that the one-time Uber prospect has come into spring training with, quote, a different energy to him, unquote. And Lux said that he's been doing a lot of things, that it's been feeling great, but he really wants to round the bases in a live game. Recall, that's how he blasted out his knee last spring. He says if he can do that, he's definitely going to know that he's ready to go. Scribes reported that starter Dustin May, who won't be pitching this year due to Tommy John surgery, was throwing without discomfort for the first time in years. Keep in mind, though, his target for returning is about the same as Clayton Kershaw. I'm sorry, I said he wasn't pitching this year. I got my calendar mixed up in my head. Basically, for both May and Kershaw, it's probably going to be August. Reliever J.P. Fireeisen told the Orange County Register that he has recovered from shoulder surgery in 2022, expects to be available for spring training games, not just the regular season. And we mentioned yesterday how Miguel Vargas could be the odd man out because he's not going to supplant Mookie Betts at second, he's not going to supplant Max Muncy at third, and so on. Vargas was seen taking outfield reps yesterday at Camelback Ranch. And by the way, we were talking about how the Dodgers want to redesign those trash City Connect jerseys. That's not the only change a-coming, folks. They have sold an ad on the shoulder sleeves to themselves. They put the Guggenheim logo on the shoulder. And if you're saying, wait, doesn't Guggenheim own the Dodgers? You're right. So Freddie Freeman sheepishly asked the Scribes if the logo looked good. It doesn't. It doesn't. But at least it's designed in a way that you can kind of ignore it. Lots of news coming on in Dodger spring training. Yesterday, I finally had a chance to get my hair cut at one of those joints that acts like a sports bar instead of a barber, right? And it was there that ESPN reported breaking news. LeBron James wasn't traded. And I'm sitting there, hip deep in hair product that I would never want to buy, thinking, we already knew he wasn't traded. Why the hell is this breaking news? So this is the latest example of the Scribes hyping the Lakers in a desperate attempt to get clickbait, in a desperate attempt to get ratings. There is no news. Nothing changed, right? So here was the story. The Warriors called Jeannie Buss and asked if they could trade for LeBron. And Jeannie is like, do I look like a GM to you? Here, let me transfer the phone. I have tens, hundreds of millions of dollars in my bank account, but you're treating me like a receptionist. Cool. Cool. The patriarchy wins again. Let's transfer you to the GM. So she transfers the Warriors lackey to Rob Pelinka, and Pelinka told him to kick rocks. And by the way, apparently LeBron's people said the same thing. This was the top story on ESPN. A trade that never even came to an actual discussion. That's not a Woj bomb. That's more like somebody blowing up a public toilet. It's nothing. If you want to know why there are very few active trading deadlines in the NBA, it pretty much goes like this. Team A calls Team B and asks for Team B's best player. So Team B is like, well, he's so valuable, the only one we would trade him for is your best player. And then both teams laugh at each other and hang up. That's literally what the trade deadline is like in the NBA. So why would you bring up this story about a trade that doesn't happen? And, there was no way the Lakers were going to give up LeBron. The reason you bring it up is because there are now articles in both The Athletic and CBSSports.com asking once again if LeBron James wants out of LA. And oh boy, maybe the Warriors could get him. It bothers the living daylights out of me. The reason that you should be skeptical about him going to the Warriors, by the way, is that even if Golden State went after LeBron James in free agency, well, that team would probably be the oldest in the history of the NBA. This is a team that likes to play a lot of fast break basketball, and they're going to be doing it using a walker up and down the court. Golden State might as well be the Golden Girls at this rate. The Warriors right now are the third oldest team in the NBA. Now you're going to sign a 40-year-old guy? Which one of these dudes gets to play Blanche? If James winds up leaving the Lakers, it's going to be for one of two reasons. It's either going to be because another team drafted his son, or because that new team has a legit chance at an NBA title, and the Warriors right now aren't even close. Meanwhile, the Lakers are talking up as if they can be a top 6 team in the Western Conference, which means they would avoid the play-in tournament. Right now, they are booty deep in the play-in. They went into last night's game 2 games behind number 8 Sacramento. Are you getting the idea? We have lots to talk about. Troubled waters for the Clippers. They sent home both PJ Tucker and Bones Highland before the game at Golden State. Both are disgruntled. Now, from where I sit, only one of them deserves to be gruntled, and that would be Tucker. The man hasn't even taken the court since November. He is a very professional, very serviceable 18-year veteran, and yet there he is, sitting on his ass simply because his salary matched up in the James Harden trade a couple of months ago. He wants to play. The primary reason that he isn't on another team is because he makes 8 figures. So when he was dealt, and he's mostly quiet before the trade deadline, but when he wasn't dealt, the frustration bubbled over. He posted on social media, quote, "This S is an effing joke," unquote. Moreover, the Clips didn't even offer to buy him out so he could become a free agent. Now, Highland, to be frank, doesn't have as much of a case. I was not that high on the James Harden trade, but for Highland to get playing time, he would have to show that he deserves it over James Harden, not happening, or Russell Westbrook, who they love. So that ain't happening either. Meanwhile, Kawhi Leonard summoned the catchphrase for the former MTV reality show The Real World when he discussed the state of the team. They need to, quote, "get better at it before it starts getting real," unquote. In other words, stop winning just based on sheer talent, show some discipline and consistent effort on defense. Where would you put the UCLA basketball team at this point in the season? I've read multiple blog posts, clearly from Bruins fans, and that's totally fine, claiming that this team can make a run in March Madness. Okay, but you have to reach March Madness first. It was only a month ago when the Bruins lost in Utah by 46 points. They were 6-10. How many 10-loss teams make the NCAA tournament? Exactly. Now, if they do, it would be an amazing job by Mick Cronin, not to mention a tremendous gut check for the 8 newcomers on the team. UCLA definitely has a future, but I don't think that much has changed in the here and now, despite the fact that they were performing at a high clip. I believe winning the Pac-12 tournament is their only hope. I could be wrong. The LA Kings minor league system used to be the envy of the National Hockey League. But in rankings compiled by The Athletic, they've dropped all the way to 17th right now. Now, the writer suggests LA still has some of his favorite minor league players, his favorite prospects. Defenseman Brant Clark, for example, because he's putting together a terrific season with the Ontario Reign, and moreover, he's bold enough to know it. He is a locker room leader. But the problem for Clark is he looks weird out there. His knees literally knock when he skates. My wife loves roller skating. I don't see her knees knocking when she's skating. Maybe she too can be in the NHL. In addition, the Athletic still backs center Alex Turcotte as a top 9 forward who elevates his teammates even when he doesn't score. Winger Alex Laferriere is forecast as a top 6 forward. One person, though, that the average hockey fan might find vital to the Kings' future is goalie Eric Portillo, because it's not going to be easy to find the next Jonathan Quick. He is described as having legitimate tools to work with, but he's inconsistent. The Chargers have added Mark Trestman to the coaching staff as an offensive analyst. He's been a head coach. He hasn't been in the game for a couple of years, but he's been a head coach with Chicago and also with the second version of the XFL, which I believe is about to go through its 4th version this spring. But they don't have any LA teams, so I don't really care. I like telling you guys things that you don't know. Here is something where you could probably say, yeah, I knew. Jim Harbaugh is rated the best coaching hire in the NFL offseason. This is according to an anonymous survey of NFL front office types compiled by The Athletic. So the Chargers, in that sense, win the offseason. And by the way, if you're wondering, Raheem Morris, who left the Rams to become Atlanta's head coach, he finished 2nd in that same poll. Edward Atuesta occupies an odd little spot in LAFC history. He was with the team in its inaugural season, but not during their run of getting to the MLS Cup finals 2 years in a row. He left the black and gold before the team won MLS Cup. This means that he has not only not been part of the championship year, but he didn't even play under current manager Steve Cherundolo. I apologize. The LA Times ran a feature about Atuesta, but the bottom line of the story is this. Under original team manager Bob Bradley, Atuesta played midfield, which is a spot currently occupied by Ilie Sanchez. They love Ilie Sanchez. So Atuesta is going to be at another spot on the field. He said that Cherundolo plans on making him a much more dangerous attacker, which utilizes his versatility instead of simply anchoring him to one spot. Normally, my goal here is to post a clip at about 9:30 in the morning. I was super late yesterday. A good friend of mine is in the hospital. So the reason I bring up my good friend is when USC guard Boogie Ellis tells the Orange County Register that, quote, "'cause it's my last year, I really do feel like my life's on the line," unquote. I wonder if somebody will just do the right thing and slap the taste out of his mouth. I like Boogie Ellis. I like USC. But you know who really knows what it's like to play for USC and have your life on the line? Bronny James. I wonder if they had adjoining lockers when Ellis started questioning his mortality, right? Like Bronny, after he stared daggers at his teammate for about 20 minutes, yells across the locker room, "Yo, Vince Iwachukwu, remember that time when you also had a cardiac arrest on the court?" Yeah, Boogie Ellis thinks his life is on the line. I'm not in favor of locker room beatdowns. But wow, dude, get some perspective. Some people really know what it's like to have their life on the line. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me if you think the Dodgers are the team with the bullseye on their backs. Talk to me, for example, about the Lakers' run and if LeBron James actually would leave Los Angeles in the offseason. And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corta El Queso production. Take care.